Hi everybody, this is the Football Hut, an amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut, and this is another video of the inmates and patients at WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny farm.
Yes, welcome back to the Football Hut. We're going to talk about, again, some members of the WFAN alumni. This is somebody who's not been on the fan, for a very long time. This is the legendary Christopher Mad Dog Russo. And he's crazy. There's nobody crazier and more like, don't pay any attention to Chris. Don't pay any attention to Mad Dog. I would mention about Mad Dog, he made a comment on one of his programs saying that if the Diamondbacks went to the World Series, he would retire from his radio. First he said he would retire. He didn't do that. Instead, he then said, well, I would retire the radio show. Then he realized when the Diamondbacks went to the World Series, he had to come up with a bet. He had to come up with some satisfaction because he realized he couldn't quit his job on Sirius XM radio. As you know, if you don't know, Christopher Mad Dog Russo was part of the legendary team of Mike and the Mad Dog. And they hated each other. See, that's why I don't like the fan. They all pretend to like each other on the fan. Now, but Mike and Chris despised each other for 18 years. They would go weeks and months without talking to each other. When they were doing their program, they would talk at each other. And the tension was what made their program so great. Two guys, completely different personality types. With Russo with his insanity, and Mike Francis was, what do you think of Stan Lee? Stan Lee? Who's Stan Lee? He just passed away. What do you think of him? Who cares? They're two totally different personalities. And that's what you get with what you used to get with him. I would mention I met both of them many years ago, and I like both of them. But together, they hate each other. But they made their careers off of each other. Now, Chris, don't pay attention to what Chris says. He's been saying crazy shit for years, since the very beginning of his career here in New York. So when I heard this whole thing about him want to retire, I was like, Chris ain't going to retire. Mad Dog's not retiring. He's not going anywhere. He's making too much money. What's he going to do, drive his poor wife crazy? He's not going to do that. So Chris likes to rip into people like nobody's business, but then he sort of, gives into a lot of stuff. He'll say one thing and then not have any credibility. This is from awfulannouncing.com. Chris Russo rips Desmond Howard and Charles Woodson for having no credibility on Michigan. Quote, how about Woodson on Fox doing the pregame on Saturday saying, this is a disgrace. He's got no credibility, for crying out loud. Not everyone is well equipped to talk about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh as Christopher Mad Dog Russo is. Certainly not Charles Woodson or Desmond Howard. Wednesday morning on First Take, Russo ripped Michigan and Harbaugh for attempting to play the victim amid their sign-stealing scandal. With the NCAA's investigation into Michigan ongoing, the Big Ten decided they saw enough evidence of illegal activity to suspend Harbaugh for 3 games. Michigan has since used the backlash as a rallying cry, with Harbaugh claiming his football program should be dubbed America's team for enduring the adversity it brought upon itself. But according to Mad Dog, not only should Harbaugh stop attempting to garner supporters, but Michigan alumni within the media should stop covering the scandal altogether. Leave that to the college football experts like Russo. Okay, Chris. I cannot believe that Michigan is acting like they somehow. Let me read my regular voice. I cannot believe that Michigan is acting like they somehow got a raw deal. And by the way, no more Michigan announcers on television shows. Stevie, defending Michigan's program. Russo ranted while looking at Stephen A. Smith, another complete total nut job. Last week, Smith had Howard on First Take. you got no credibility. Guys who won Heisman trophies, oh, how can you do this to poor Michigan? Nonsense. They cheated. Take your punishment, take the 2 extra games, and move on. Russo never mentioned Howard by name, but Kimberly A. Martin and Marcus Spears were quick to point out they knew who he was referring to. Quote, Desmond Howard coming in 5 minutes, Spears said. Doggy, you out here starting a mess now. Desmond, you're going to hear from Desmond. Quote, what mess did I make, Russo asked disingenuously. Well, how about Charles Woodson? How about Woodson on Fox doing the pregame on Saturday saying, this is a disgrace. He's got no credibility, for crying out loud. Michigan alumni aside, there has been a stark contrast in the way Harbaugh's program has been treated in recent weeks. If you look at ESPN and Fox, ESPN's personalities have largely taken strong stances against Michigan amid the program's sign-stealing scandal, while Fox personalities, strangely, led by the very strange Colin Cowherd, have been more inclined to downplay the allegations. Now, I'll tell you, Chris is a nut. How do you like my voice? I don't think I've ever done that voice. You know, I've done his former partner's voice. I've never done Dog's voice like that. I think it came out pretty good. Sometimes I do the voices and I never know where I'm going to take them. I'm still working on my boomer voice, my boomer size and voice. You know, this is Boomer. You know, I gotta do a better job with that. But let me know what you think about this video. And of course, this is another video on the insane asylum and this is a former patient and a guy out on the loose for the last 18, how many years now? The last 15 years, Christopher Mad Dog Russo.
They're coming to take me away, ha ha. They're coming to take me away, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha. To the funny farm.